all in all, man, I'm excited. This is essentially, the world according to Duncan Trussell. There are no rules, sir.
Great.
And we you don't have to have. I almost prefer that you never have a definitive answer. It's all just metaphor.
Okay.
But before I get into this, how you doing? The family good? Everybody's all right?
Yeah, we're good, man. We're about to move to Austin. The movers come on Saturday.
Wow.
So yeah, moving a
All
whole
right.
family is
It's a huge deal.
it's a huge deal. Yeah,
Huge deal. You got to move all those keyboards too.
I know. That's the terrifying part.
Well, good luck, man. Good
Thank
luck.
you.
I look forward to crossing paths wherever you are next, and maybe I guess we're not going to see you in North Carolina because you will have moved for
Yeah,
the
we're out.
Love Serve.
Saturday,
Remember?
we're gone. Yeah, it's just bad timing because that thing landed right after our move, and
Yeah.
there's just no way I'm coming back.
I feel you.
Ever.
Are you? Are you going to be there virtually or something? They said.
Yeah, virtually.
Almost as good.
Pretty much the same.
Okay. All right. Let's get into this. So you once told me, this is many years ago, we were standing on the streets of Hollywood.
Okay.
And one phrase you said stuck in my mind. And you were saying, what if the next Messiah is a meme? And tell me more if your thoughts have evolved on that. But do you think the next Messiah could be a meme?
Well, I mean, yeah. I was reading in some Buddhist text that there are apparently realms where there has yet to be a Buddha. So in other words, if you're born into a realm in a human form or any form really, but in whatever the particular part of the multiverse you're in, there's been a Buddha. And we have Shakyamuni Buddha. Then it's incredibly lucky, like insanely lucky to be like post Buddha, so to speak, downstream. But in the stories of Shakyamuni Buddha, they go into all the different incarnations leading up to him gaining realization. And I was just thinking, like, holy shit, if I was like sitting in my bathtub because our shower's not working. I feel like I need to defend the fact that I was taking a bath. I don't know why I hate baths. But I was looking at all that water in there, all the little water particles, and I was thinking like, wow, we're hanging out here in the bathtub just for this tiny little bit of time. I'm going to press a button and you're headed down the drain. God knows where you're going to go to. You're going to get evaporated. You're going to go into the sewers. You're going to go on the floor. A little bit of you is going to drip on the floor. Some of that, all of it, eventually, it's going to end up in a human, maybe part of a human, as a human. And then I was thinking, my God, you might end up is a tiny little water particle inside the next Messiah, the next Buddha, the next awakened being. So I think the meme idea, do I think like, will an actual meme be a Buddha? Can a Buddha be a meme? I don't know. But I think that every little drop of novelty and data that comes from an intention of helping could, in the same way that the water particles might end up becoming part of a Buddha, then all those little memes and all the little aspects of whatever it is floating around are probably eventually going to coalesce into something so remarkable that people would call it a Buddha.
That's was Thich Nhat Hanh the next Buddha? Is the Sangha the community? I mean, that's almost like the idea if we have an internet or a meme that like it's almost like the next Messiah is essentially these amalgamation of all information or constituent parts, or it has to be like it's bigger than an individual.
Yeah, I love that idea. Decentralization is so wonderful and important. And whatever the thing may be, I imagine it's so far outside of what you could even imagine that But it's fun to think about, isn't it? It's fun to think about. No one ever talks about the Buddha's grandmother or
Would the Buddha
great
be
grandmother.
tweeting if the Buddha was around, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so, right? Like, why
Yeah.
not? It seems like uh, he was using the all the technologies available to him when he gained realization as a method of communication to beings about what he had discovered. So, yeah, I imagine that it wouldn't be. I doubt that he wouldn't use Twitter.
Well, that actually answers sort of your questions. Like, yeah, if the Buddha was around, of course, if he's using modern tools and technology, then perhaps it would be a mechanism of that technology itself, or maybe it's already happening. You know, maybe the Messiah, or it's some kind of happening that where it's right in front of our eyes, in a sense, hidden in this sea of information, in a way.
Yeah, I think that's the other cool thing about this line of thinking is, you know, at least personally, that you could accidentally make the assumption that the work is done, so to speak. There was a Buddha. The Buddha's no longer with us in physical form. There's a world religion called Buddhism,
Yeah,
as though it had somehow like peaked or something like that. When it's very possible that we're in the initial unfolding of the Dharma or the turning of the wheel. It's some even advanced place, because the the Four Noble Truths really, there's lots of people who don't even know what they are on the planet right now. There's lots of
sure.
people who have no idea, who think the Buddha is like this fat thing you see in restaurants.
In gardens, he's a
In
statue.
it's a statue
Yeah,
in gardens. Like, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Or if you're like trying to buy a house in LA, every fucking house they throw a Buddha on the wall. I don't know what that is.
It costs more money, that's for sure.
It does. Drives up the
Um,
cost.
well, then, speaking of like modern tools, then like let's talk about like music and what you can do these days, like on a laptop or podcast or
Yeah.
all the things we can make creatively. Maybe like just riffing on this continual theme of Messiah or a new like awakening. Maybe it's through like creativity and it being so. I mean, what we're doing right now is a sort of like joint collaborative thing over technology that then morphs into another form like music.
Yeah.
And it's like we're in this mashup period where like all creative forms just kind of get blended into one sandwich. And uh I'll riff this into what I was going to ask you. So I had this thought that comedians serve this role in modern society as shamans because they're like these tricksters
Uh,
that are super popular right now and have a lot of power, and there's so many of them, but they're actually quite subversive and like showing the mirror to us of so many things, which they've always done. But like, what do you think about the comedian as a shaman today?
okay. I don't know if you saw Norm Macdonald's new special.
I did see some of that. Yeah.
Did you see the thing where he said he hates or maybe it was an interview? He's just talking about how he hates the term comedian philosopher
Yeah.
because he feels horrible for the philosophers in the world
Yeah.
being like you, because like we're I think here's what's real. One of the qualities of a fool, which comedians are, is that we will take on pretty much any role you assign to us, no matter how lofty. In fact, the more lofty, the better. Which is why you will see this thing happen with comedians, where all of a sudden they've gone from being funny people to it appears that they have like a really intense agenda to transform the planet for the better, which isn't a bad thing necessarily, but all of a sudden you realize that they've fallen into a classic trap, which is somebody, God forbid, you call a comedian a philosopher. It'll go straight to their head, and then they'll start thinking they're a philosopher. Next thing you know, they're acting like they think they're a philosopher. They act like a philosopher. This is just a part of being a fool. Same with shaman, I would say. You tell a comedian they're a fucking shaman. Watch out, man, because it's a mirror. It's a funhouse mirror. So the thing's going to get digested into it. Part of, I think, being funny is that it's not like you're going to ironically think of yourself as a shaman. You're gonna really start believing you're a fucking shaman, and then you're gonna do embarrassing things. You're gonna fuck up so bad, it's gonna be a mess, and you're gonna cause a mess and feel dumb causing the mess. So I don't believe in I think anyone I think comedians, there is a mystical aspect to like comedy and the way that it's sort of funhouse mirrors whatever default reality is in certain ways that can be quite liberating if you're really stuck in default reality. But what I love about the great tricksters in like mythology, like Loki, Coyote, they're not doing it because they're trying to help. It just accidentally turns out that it helps. They don't mean, they're not like, I'm going to be a vehicle for the divine. Usually they're like doing something really quite nefarious, selfish, ridiculous, but then somehow from the grace of the divine, that insanity, actually, you realize that chaos was a very important part of the recipe for what was coming next, for the good thing that was just around the corner. You couldn't have gotten there without the chaos. You couldn't have gotten there without a fool being part of it. That's why the tarot card, the major arcana, it starts with a fool. To me, that is the perfect embodiment of every comedian I've ever met, which is they're walking off a fucking cliff in the Rider-Waite fool, walking off a cliff, wearing ridiculous clothes, little dog at their feet, looking up so that they don't see they're about to go toppling down. They've got a tiny, stupid knapsack on a stick, surely not enough to survive whatever dumb journey they're on. They've just thrown it all together, not thinking about anything, put on their what they thought was their best clothes, got their dog there, right off a fucking cliff. Right off a cliff. And they were probably thinking, I'm a shaman. I'm going to go on my shaman journey. I'm going to go teach people. I'm a philosopher. And then, you fall off a cliff. And that's the beginning of the journey.
They're vehicles for something else. Let's not, the cosmic joke, right? Let's say that's part of the design of all that is. So in some ways, like we're all just vehicles for something bigger. Like all creativity, whatever the hell we make, I just feel we're more responsible and can be proud of like, hey, I have the will to try, or I sat down and started typing on the keys, whatever the hell comes through. I don't know. That's all it is. It's the muse. But like with that in mind, there does seem to be this cosmic joke. There's what do you have to say about that? What does that mean to you? That does seem to be embedded into this vast, infinite consciousness and wisdom. Perfection is that trickster and that absurdity.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
weirdness.
I can remember when I was a kid, an adult would tell you a ghost story. Now, the ghost story would probably not, like, if we heard it now, it wouldn't be scary. But as a kid, it's easy to get scared. You don't, my children, they like, I played, well, it is kind of terrifying. I was playing Elden Ring for like 2 seconds in front of my youngest child, and he just immediately started crying, looking at that world. It's so depressing. And he's just like, what is that? Crying. But, the cosmic giggle thing, or the cosmic joke, or all that, I think a compassionate parent should be willing to, when a kid's old enough, tell a ghost story to your kid. It's fun to be scared. But if you're a really good storyteller, you can twinkle, you can wink, you can make something funny happen in the story, or you can look at the scared person in a way that doesn't necessarily take away the horror of whatever story you're telling, but reminds them this is just a story. Everything's fine. Then they can enjoy the horror, the fear, and also get that wonderful sense of like, oh, right, this is a story that I got too absorbed into. So I think that cosmic joke thing, those are just little sparkles in there from some compassionate, from the divine, that's there for you, so that in the midst of that moment, when you're in the midst of the most horrible thing, somehow you're laughing, or something funny is happening, or there is within it a sense of like, yes, this is sad and heartbreaking and terrifying and scary, and yet somehow there's something in it that's incredibly liberating and funny.
Is that grace then? In a way, like the cosmic joke is that's grace cutting through so that it's just not too heavy?
Yeah, it's gotta be. I mean, there's a different, there's a to me, whatever